Wow, Kev, what a week. Week 7 in the books. Uh my God, there's too many things to talk about. We were basically witnessing the collapse of college football as our understanding of it is, and there's a lot of things that we need to discuss. Before I get into it, Kev, is there anything you just want to headline this with?
We'll bury the lead with Penn State. We're going to talk about that. But one thought I had earlier today was just so two teams, Texas Tech and Miami. Why are they so good this year? It's because they came up with a defense. They've
Yep.
had like Cam Ward and that Miami offense last year were, I think, number one offense in the nation. But they obviously didn't have the record to match that because their defense was giving out points. And a few changes, and it can mean all the difference. It's that's kind of my two takeaways so far. Those are kind of the two biggest surprises. It's got to be Texas Tech and Miami's defense, and just how much of a difference that's made.
That's a good point that I'm going to write down.
Hey, thank you. A bit of a curveball.
Um,
There's really aren't late breaking things, but that's just kind of
No, they're
what's.
not. Since you mentioned two things, Kev. Since you mentioned Texas Tech, when I saw the rankings come out this past Sunday, and I see that Texas Tech was not ranked number 5, and they were jumped instead by Alabama and Ole Miss after this past week, and I was very upset. That's just me. I think that's some SEC entitlement going on there, but to each their own. In my perfect world, I actually had Indiana going number 2 in front of Miami. Then after that, I had A&M. Then I had Texas Tech in my top 5. Ohio
Yeah,
State
I
was
think
number 1 on the list.
I mean, Ohio State is definitely number one, but I think as long as you have these undefeated teams, they got to stay in front of Alabama. In my opinion, like Texas Tech doesn't have no wins. They beat Utah on the
Texas Tech.
road. Sorry,
You
yeah, it
said
doesn't
Texas
have.
Tech. Yeah, no, I don't.
Or they
Whatever.
don't
We
have
know
that,
what you're talking about.
yeah, well, they have some big wins, and just, it's a 12-team playoff, so at the end of the
Yep.
day, it really doesn't matter. All of these teams in the top 10 control their own destiny. I would say all the teams in the top 20 might control their own destiny. We'd have to look at the schedule, but
Right.
that's the beauty of the 12-team playoff.
And then, Kev, my next question is going to be: do you think the internet is going to skewer me if I continue to wear this shirt for the rest of the episode?
Couldn't be worse than that Eagles hat last week, and your really
Well, it wasn't an
distasteful
Eagles hat, it
joke.
was a Phillies shirt, but
Oh,
wait, don't
whatever.
don't get ahead of yourself, because first things we gotta talk about this from this past week, Kev, is, okay, James Franklin, eh, you've heard, right?
I have. I mean, I can make the
Okay.
case for him. It's not one I necessarily agree with, but Penn State has owned Virginia recruiting for the last
They have.
5, 8 years. That was part of the reason why we went with Pry in the first place, snagging him. He was the defensive coordinator at Penn State. I see what, like, I see the reason for it. I wouldn't be upset if we got him,
Right.
like, I think that's what he's done at Penn State. If that could be recreated at Virginia Tech, you would not hear
Absolutely.
me complaining about losing 3 straight. That happens every week for us.
Every week. And I was having a discussion with a coworker today, and they put it to me this way. They said, look, when James Franklin came to Penn State, they were a loss factory. He comes and put them as he didn't quite get them past the finish line, but he built them up to a program that's now going to think about a coach who can get them to the championship. Virginia Tech is just at the point of we need wins. You know what I mean? Like, we just got to get back to what we were back when it was Beamer ball, and we got to stop with this revolving door of nobody names and somebody that can make a splash. And I like that reasoning, and for that, maybe I'm pulling for James Franklin. I don't know yet. We still got to see how the rest of the season pans out, because I know there's probably going to be a lot more firings that are going to happen.
Agreed.
Kev, you sent me this graphic. Look, I don't really look at the Reddit pages that much. I don't really know what this is referring to. That being said, I was watching that Oregon game intently this past weekend, and I gotta say, Oregon is a lovely, lovely state. I could not wait to visit there in the future, and especially Portland. I've heard it's beautiful this time of year, so it's going to be just something on my bucket list. All you Oregonians, I don't know if I'm even saying that right, just give me places to visit in Portland when I'm there. Okay.
Yeah, a couple things here. First of all, one, yes, you were wearing an Eagles hat. It's pretty much proof right there.
Oh wow, I was.
Anyhow, then also, yeah, I mean, I do think I owe, the likes of Tucker Carlson, Rachel Maddow, Stephen A. Smith, Skip Bayless. I owe them an apology because I gotta say, we've been posting our videos to all the subreddits. We'll
Right.
get maybe one like, one very supportive comment here or there. It wasn't until we dabbled in controversy that we finally got some impressions, and it's tough. We have the ring now, and I don't want this podcast, this show, whatever you call it, to become
No.
a controversy factory. But man, I see the value in just
Hate.
trying to rib
Look,
people. So
look. The opposite of love is not hate; it's apathy. So that's what I just keep telling myself. um, uh, but yeah, no, I'm not even gonna address it. Let's just move on. Okay,
yeah,
let's talk about this. It says week 6 up there. I might, maybe I'll edit it. I probably won't, but yeah, week 7 recap. So UMD is building something, and that's what I noticed. Despite their loss to Washington, they're keeping these games close enough for me to think like, UMD, I'm gonna stick with it. I hope that they keep Michael Locksley in the offseason because I want to see what they can do with like one more year of recruiting, especially now that, Penn State's going to have some recruiting errors. So that's going to leave a giant pool in the area for Maryland to just kind of scoop some people up. So yeah, I liked what I would see with Maryland each week. They're going to be on my board.
just one point on that, and yeah, I think it's something that like they've put together a good team. They've lost 2 close games, but the nature of these last 2 week losses, they were up by 20 against Washington 2 weeks ago. They were up by, doing some quick math right here, 7 headed into the fourth quarter against Nebraska this last week. So they're competitive. They're competitive as hell through 3 quarters. They just need to shore up some things. I didn't watch the games close enough to see if it was the typical getting stuck playing prevent defense or what have you. But yeah,
Right.
I listen to the news here in the DMV area when I'm riding around in the car, and so I get a lot of Maryland sports updates. And yeah, that's a team that I think people are high on, and rightfully so. And you changed your shirt, okay?
Yeah, that's what that was. I didn't like looking at my arms as much as I should. Yeah, we already talked about Penn State. They've never been lower. I think they named their interim was the guy who was their cornerback slash defensive quality coach. I forget his name. So yeah, they got a new guy in there, and I'm already hearing people trying to, mind meld themselves into believing that Kirk Signetti might come to Penn State to be the coach.
He's been at the top of every school's list.
Right.
I hear some ramblings from LSU fans too. Like he would be a great get for anywhere. I don't think he's leaving unless you throw one crazy bag at him. And
No.
even then, like he's getting paid. He just signed an extension with Indiana. He's getting paid, he more than he needs.
And
More than
to that point, Kev, I actually looked up coaches' salaries earlier today, and the difference between Signetti pay right now and James Franklin when he left on the table like for this year is only 200 grand. So I mean, I I don't know what kind of bag Penn State's gonna get, but it's gonna have to be a lot more than what they were paying Franklin, is what I'm saying. So
um,
we'll see what happens. Yeah, and then Indiana, I mean, looking at the resumes, I still think that if you're just looking at the numbers, you're not taking into the factor of like the playing of the game, then by resume, Indiana should be ranked number 1, I think. Just based on their wins, like look, they had obviously this past weekend, the Iowa game, that's a great win, and then they stomped an Illinois team. They had a better margin of victory against Ohio State. So look, I know any given Sunday, but at some point, transitive property, when there's like 20 points, it's got to come into play in a little bit. But that's just me. And then, Bama and Ohio State will never be bad, and we all just have to accept that we're living in a peripheral time loop where we're just going to be watching them toss the national championship trophy back and forth.
back and forth.
Yep.
Ohio State looks like Alabama did in the 2010s. Just
Yeah.
a dominant defense and a good enough offense that has special moments, but just frankly, a defense that makes the games you're watching a little boring, and
Right.
that's how I felt with Alabama, and that just makes you more frustrated. But that is the
No,
truth.
it does. And dude, the Bama game, when I was watching that against Mizzou, like Mizzou was playing as hard as they could on defense, but they got so many weapons for Ty Simpson to throw to hand off to that they just can't like keep up. So Kalen DeBoer's actually got a pretty rock solid roster there. I think, he's going to be marred by that week 1 loss, but that seems like decades ago right now. And it was to a team that has pretty much completely collapsed in on itself. I think that's the next point. Yeah, when they lost to Pitt. Um, Kev, why don't you talk about that? Because I think I got one of the games wrong earlier.
Yeah, that Florida State Pitt game was at home. I think that's the big thing to note. It was in Doak Campbell Stadium. I mean, that puts Mike Norvell. I almost feel like he was saved being fired, if not for the win against Alabama, just for the fact that Penn State beat him to the punch and they don't want to go out on the same weekend. Who does Florida State have this upcoming week? That
I think I should know that, but I don't. Hold on, let me pull it up while you keep talking.
yeah, it's unfortunately very reminiscent of what happened after they got snubbed from the college football playoffs. Momentum can stop instantly, and the wrong kind of momentum can kick in, and that's what I mean. They get smushed by Georgia, and then they had the historically bad season last year. They got momentum going into this Miami game. Well, sorry, not undefeated, because then they got beat by UVA, Miami, now Pitt, and this was not a great Pitt team. So this
No,
is I don't think their season's over, but their
they got
college playoff
Stanford this
bid is
upcoming
certain.
week, by the way.
Okay. I mean, that's every game now Mike Norvell is not playing for a playoff spot. He's playing for
For his job.
keeping
Yeah.
his home in Tallahassee.
Yeah. And hey, Stanford, they got that 1-2 punch of Frank Reich and crap, I'm blanking. Frank Reich and Andrew Luck at the helm. So you never know when they might pull it out. And one thing I said earlier, Kev, that I think I need to correct is Maryland did not play Washington this past weekend. God, all the games just kind of
They
meld
played
together.
Nebraska.
Thank you. That's what it was. And that
Hmm.
was a close game as well. But yeah, Washington, I remember watching Washington as they played against Rutgers, and I thought to myself that, yeah, just like when I saw them keep it within 6 points for an entire half against Ohio State. Was it 6 or 3? I can't remember. But I just remember thinking to myself,
7-3.
this is
Yeah.
still a pretty good team who should be considered not like middle of the pack when it comes to the Big Ten. And they do have a reasonable argument for why they should be ranked, especially when you look back at Notre Dame's got the 2 losses and like on there. I don't know. I mean, in my opinion, I do think Washington should probably be ranked about above some of those other teams, but that's why I don't make the decisions. And yeah, UGA Auburn, the Kirby
Man.
Smart thing.
What did you think? Was that I mean, that's whatever. That didn't have as big of a deal on the game as people think. That fumble, do you think he got across the goal line?
Uh, there's not enough to overturn it. So
That's what
yeah,
I'm thinking. And then I didn't hear a whistle on the play either. So they should have given Georgia a touchdown on because the Georgia guy ran. Maybe I was watching in a hotel room. Maybe I
right.
misheard, but that was my thought. I'm like, they didn't blow the play dead. Georgia picked that thing up and ran it all the way back. I don't know. There's part of me that always feels very vindicated when the refs are screwing up and it's drawing
Oh
attention as a
yeah,
lifelong referee hater. Um, but then you do got to feel bad for Auburn as a team. Just now, this is twice because if that play stands at 17-0 against a Georgia team that's not lighting the world on fire with their offense, like I think I saw one stat, and I'm going to get these numbers wrong, but it was from the moment of that fumble up until that point, Auburn was outgaining Georgia by like almost 200 yards. Then after the fumble, they got outgained by Georgia by like 200 yards. So it's just crazy how a call like that, honestly, it's not even the refs because it's the replay. It's the replay officials,
right.
the ones they always show in that weird office conference room.
Yeah,
Like I,
the one where they're all sitting like this and they're looking like straight up at it. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and then pet peeve, I hate it when say like say it was a completed catch they're reviewing, and then they're showing them in that room, and right before they make the call, you see them both like, like they give away the call, like you by
Right.
seeing them,
Yeah.
you see, and then it's like, oh, okay, cool. It needs to be fixed, but
And then it's also like you'll see both sidelines reacting like before the call's even made too. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. No, I look at the end of that game, Auburn and Hugh Freeze, they just look like sad puppies. That's all it was, man. They just didn't have any fight left them. I think that, and again, like you said, two pretty bad referee scandals have marred their season right now. But at a certain point, you can't let that get to you. You got to still keep the fight in them. And right now, they don't look like that team. Okay. And then, oh my God, USF UNT. How about
wow.
how
I mean, what was I saying about Miami's defense? Like, how
yeah,
good is Miami's defense? If that,
seriously. Dude, that game was 1 point away from the 100.
oh,
I know.
dude, I don't want to hold it up, but just to go back, you mentioned sad puppies. That's what they looked like. I use that phrase all the time when talking about a player that I love, Kyron Drones. I think sometimes he gets, when something doesn't go his way and you look, he just kind of has those sad puppy dog eyes. And it's obviously not them being a wimp, they're freak athletes, they're tough guys. But I think it's a combination of being upset and trying to play it cool. You end up looking like, you look like a sad puppy. And that is bad energy. If you leave in energy and mystics and spirits and all that, like you can't be walking around your sideline, especially if you're a leader, especially if you're Hugh Freeze. You can't be walking around like, as you said, as I've said, sad puppy. All right. Sorry about that. Continue.
No, that was fun. Yeah, John Mateer, we're gonna get to in a minute. He's struck from the list for the Heisman after this past week. Oklahoma just couldn't handle Texas for whatever reason, and I think he threw what 3 picks on the game. They just weren't connecting in some of those key moments, especially down the field when they were in the red zone and they had the scoring opportunity. He was choke city. Yeah, I don't know if they should have given him another week of rest or whatever, but from what I can see, he's back to starting again this week. No more injuries. So, yeah, Oklahoma's going to have to really claw themselves back to get out of the pit they just dug themselves in.
I mean, Oklahoma's got to be careful. I think this is now 3 years in a row, or yeah, 3 years they haven't scored a touchdown against Texas.
Is that
Um, Sorry, I guess it's 3 years ago they did score a touchdown. But if you count the day after that game, starting then, because last year I believe they only had 6 points or maybe zero. I think they might have lost 34-0 last year. So I have seen a lot of Oklahoma fans rightfully upset that, if you can't score a touchdown on your rivals for
right?
2 years, you're not you're not a legitimate contender. And so I think Oklahoma's got they have some soul searching to do.
Yep,
Um,
big
I
time.
believe they play at South Carolina this week, and
They do, and that's going to be one
maybe,
of the games we talk about.
yeah, maybe their kryptonite is hostile environments on the road. I'd just like to say we did in our pick'em videos last week. We did both pick Oklahoma to cover, but
Uh-huh.
we hedged with anything can happen in this game. Texas could be right back in
Yeah.
contention because they've got 2 losses to Ohio State and to Florida.
It's such a weird season, man. They were out of it with those early losses, and now here they are just coming back into it, and they're back in the polls. So we'll see what happens. What was that stat that you said about not scoring a touchdown for?
Oklahoma hasn't scored a touchdown against Texas, not this year, of course, not last year.
Well, last year it was 34-3 Texas.
Yeah.
The year before that it was 34-30. So
Okay. So yeah, 3 years from the
hey, they
day
might have
after that
gotten
game. But
they, they, they could have, I guess, gotten to 34 without scoring a touchdown. I don't know how that works, but must have been a
I
lot
just
of
mean
things.
if you start counting from the day after that game, I think it's been 3 years.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
we'll go with that.
look, man, I'm
Yeah,
pretty sick. I got a cold, caught it in Philadelphia. That city, you guys have to
you
stop
haven't had your
hitting
vaccine.
deers. There's so many dead deers on the road and the highway. I don't know what it is about Philadelphia, but you guys got to stop that. Yeah, cut it out. And yeah, I otherwise
That
I
deer is
thoroughly
your
enjoyed
biggest problem.
myself. The dead deer, getting sick. It was a lovely
Okay.
wedding though. Okay, what game is next? Texas Tech
Uh,
deserves. Yep.
Yeah, no, we already talked about Texas Tech. I mean, I think they're a great program right now, and I love the underdog story just of how they're now in this contention as much as they are. You could be fooled for thinking that old Patty Mahomes is back down there in Texas Tech. Um, my other two things, Notre Dame quietly staying alive right now, and it's really starting to annoy me because it's going to be just one of those. They're just kind of like sitting around the corner, just waiting for more ranked teams to lose. You know what I mean? So that they'll be back in contention. And then, yeah, we also had two other firings that got overshadowed this past weekend. UAB and Oregon State both moved on. Hand up, E game this year. Oregon
Dude,
State,
go
the only game I
Trailblazers.
yes, they are. Uh, Oregon State, I've only watched their game against Oregon. So, yep, they're moving on, and the coaching carousel continues. We are only to week 8. All right.
And we're going to end on this note of looking at Oklahoma's schedule. They got South Carolina next week. Then they play 5 straight ranked teams to end the season.
Right.
All right, let's
All right.
move on now.
Do it.
Yeah, walk away, Tyler. As I explained, this new segment of our recap video, it is the Heisman race. And as you can see here, if to our loyal listeners, I know you were checking this out 2 weeks ago when we started, just talking through top Heisman contenders. We have the 10 here, and every week we are going to cross one off the list. I don't think we timed our weeks right, so I don't think there'll be just one left at the end. But if somebody comes out of left field and we want to add them back in, then we have to cross, obviously 2 people off the list that week. So, as we alluded to, John Mateer, um, he really had a rough showing. And did he come back too early? Is it just Texas's defense is Oklahoma's boogeyman? Um, who knows? I know it's the Oklahoma fan base is pretty down in the dumps right now. Um, I'll always just to give you some perspective. Let's go Hokies. Oklahoma could always be worse. So then going down the list, Mendoza couldn't come up big in this game, and I do think detractors are going to they're they're going to start poking holes in that Penn State win. But regardless, that was still a big victory on the road in a hostile environment against a good defense in Penn State. So I don't think people should be writing off Mendoza yet. I'm saying, God dang it, Dante Moore, I meant.
Yeah. No, 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 no.
Yeah,
I was like, wait a minute.
Mendoza. Yeah, hey, that's okay. Our listeners understand that I'm sick, caught cold in Philly. Fernando Mendoza might be atop my list right now.
I
Just
yeah, I
he,
okay.
lighting it up against Illinois, that's big. But then traveling to a hostile environment, he essentially stole Dante Moore's like thunder. Like he
Yeah,
stole what
he
Dante
did.
Moore had going for him in getting a huge road win. And so, yeah, I mean, anybody else on that list you want to talk through, Tyler?
No, why don't we just go through our top threes, Kev?
Okay.
All right, who you got?
So let's see. In no particular order, but I think
Right.
Mendoza
No.
is first. So
Yep.
Fernando Mendoza, and again, he's got the name that sounds like a Heisman winner. Um, then Man, this is kind of more of like a I'd like to see him win just because like coming in as not the starter, but Trinidad Chambliss for Ole Miss. I'd love, and we're gonna find out. You'll see here we're covering the Georgia game.
Yep.
Maybe he has a Mendoza moment, formerly a Moore moment. Um, then let's see. I think just because of the level of competition, I'm sticking with Ty Simpson, but I am starting to root hard against Alabama. They had their little
Yeah.
honeymoon phase with me. I'll have to see. I mean,
I
Julian
love
say
how
I
in
don't want I don't want to root for an Ohio State quarterback to win the Heisman. I'm sorry. All right, what you
no,
got, Tyler?
well, my thing is, I love how in this season it's only about to be week 8, and we've already gone from Alabama's the favorites to now they're back to the underdog to now they're back to the boot. You know what I mean? Like, God, I
Time
love
is a
this season
sad
so
flat
much.
circle, man.
Time is just a flat circle. But now look, I was almost gonna mirror your list exactly, but for the sake of argument, I'll switch it up a little bit. Fernando Mendoza, look, Yeah, it's like you said, he's just playing out of his mind, and he's got a good enough playmaking ability, and with Kurt Cignetti's offense, I don't see his resume being dampered that much, and they got a clean rest of the season.
I
So
was gonna
Fernando
say
Mendoza.
he could pad some stats.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah, big time. Um, and then after that, I mean, I crap, you took Trinidad Shameless from me, and I
that was
can't
gonna
take
be your
Dante
ace in the
Moore.
hole.
Huh?
That was gonna be your ace in the hole was
That what
Trinidad.
dude, I was gonna
Yeah.
say Ty Simpson and Trinidad Shameless, but no, okay, I'll be boring, and I'm gonna say Carson. Man, I'm taking the top 3 team QBs, alright, yeah, I'm taking Fernando
Now go
Mendoza,
Marcel
Carson
Reed,
Beck, and
dude.
Julian Sayin. What?
Okay. I said, "Go Marcel Reed, man." He's had another
Uh,
good performance against Florida. He got on the road.
Give me
Here's what I'll tell you.
Marcel Reed ahead of Julian Sayin and Carson Beck and Fernando
Alright,
Mendoza. That's what
and
I'm
here's
going
my
with.
promise to our loyal fans. In 2 weeks, Texas A&M playing on the road at LSU. Nice rematch of that 7 overtime game that changed up the overtime rule. I
Right.
hope LSU and Texas A&M get it done this week so we have a true juggernaut
Yeah.
matchup that week to cover for you.
Dude, you know what I was just thinking? Like, the beginning of the season, Jeremiah Smith is the only name that is still on there from the beginning of the season. Isn't that amazing?
Oh, wow.
Drew Aller,
Yeah,
Garrett
where's Arch Manning?
Nussmeier, Cade Klubnik, Arch Manning.
Uh,
Yeah, none of those guys. Jeez. Oh, and shout out to Drew Aller. Hopefully he makes a quick recovery into a pretty much what's
Yeah,
going to be a nothing burger of a season, unfortunately. Um,
yeah.
all right. Me and Kev are going to take a quick 5 before we rapid fire into what you guys came in here for. All right. Energy. Energy.